Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. For today's video, I've got a very quick game that happened in last weekend's EU tournament against none other than Sacco, and I think it does a really good job of showing how tempo and early decisions can affect the outcome of a game if you know how to capitalize on certain moves your opponent makes early on. So in this game, I go for Rhino Specialist with the Arc Lights and Steel Balls. Again, I'm in a bit of a period where I feel more comfortable playing aggro, so I like this pack. It's got good tempo on round 4. You get that level 2 Rhino. You can make at least a 1-round play for one of the towers, or just try and overwhelm one side. And then you can sell it for 300 resources, which can be spent on something else. And I mean, 5,100 hit points. Can you really complain? I don't think so. Sacco here is going for Sabertooth Specialist with the Stormcallers and the Fangs. I think this is a pretty decent matchup for me here. I should be able to at least kind of get a snowball going into the Stormcallers. Round 1 might be a little difficult because I don't have Chaff, right? I only have the 2 packs, which tends to be not quite enough. And yeah, the 2 Arclights here might be able to defend. What you'll see me do here is go for a double, or not a double-sided push, the opposite, a one-sided push. Reason again is because I'm kind of low on chaff here and I don't really want to push in on both sides, having only one pack of chaff. With the Stormcallers being split like this, I think he would be completely fine and able to defend that, even in like round 2 or 3. So instead I want to try and do something like this. You'll see me position the crawlers a bit forward and to the sides because I don't want the Stormcallers to instantly lock onto my steel balls. And it also provides some sort of front line where I don't have to worry too much on round 2 of like a missile being used from my opponent to try and kill some of my more important units. So we get tower debuff relatively quickly here. And by the looks of it, with all of these steel balls left alive and even one crawler pack that came out from the outside still surviving, I think we will be able to pick up the first round here, which is very nice. I had 3 arc lights, by the way, to start with, and I decided to put one of them all the way in the back here, and it did a fantastic job. When it's so far back, it tends to not pull any units towards it, at least not that much, unless they would already go for tower anyway. And so it just kind of catches that wave of fangs there, which is a pretty decent thing, and it stops like some sort of crawler cheese that might come from my tower early on. Round 2, we already get unit reinforcements, and so here I wasn't too happy with what I saw. I don't think any of this helps me that much, apart from Mustang, which does pair with the steel balls, so I kind of have no choice but to grab it. But into the other stuff, like into Stormcaller, into Arclight, it's not really what I wanted to play, but I didn't really have a choice. But here, Sacco did something that surprised me, and he went for the Mustangs as well. Now, I was expecting the sledges to come out, maybe even the tarantula or something along those lines, because it would just stop these steel balls in their tracks. Like one level 2 sledge and another one on this side, and I cannot get in with these steel balls. Mustang, however, doesn't really quite do the same. Now, he does have a Sabertooth Specialist available this turn, so it's a big turn in terms of deployments for him anyway, but I was a little surprised about that because I don't think Mustang is necessarily that good into Arclight Steel Ball Crawler. Now, because I knew that he got a lot of deployments, I decided to make a play for the left tower here, because I was expecting this side to be completely overwhelmed by enemy units. Like, I was expecting, again, 2 sledges, like just a wall of things that I would never be able to get through. So I decided to make a bit of a play on the other side, knowing that my opponent has to answer my push from round 1. Here, by the way, I purchased another steel ball pack. It's not bad in this situation. It's good frontline, and my opponent didn't really have anything capable of killing this easily, but putting it on the line there is a little bit weird. I'm not sure that I like my setup that much, but it works. We do get the tower. Right side is struggling a little bit, but at least my arc lights are feasting on those level 2 Mustangs and the other level 1 pack that was added as well. And so here already I'm thinking, well, since you didn't go sledge and you went Mustang, I already have Arclights on the board, and, well, Mustangs are not that good into Arclights. Especially if I manage to get those levels on board, I should be completely fine. So I might just be able to get away with a bit of an Arclight play here. Now, round 2 does go over to my opponent. Again, it's his power spike turn, And I was a little bit... Well, I didn't really know what was going to happen, and I was expecting a different response from the free units, but yeah, not too bad. We still get most of the stuff, and importantly, for that Arclight plan, we get the Arclight levels, and that'll allow us to one-shot these Mustangs. And here I decided to sell out of my steel balls because I want to get the money available to be able to, 1, level the Arclights, and 2, I'm thinking about ranging them here as well. Both of us do pick up the missile strike. Both of us are targeting, obviously, the Mustang packs. I tried to go for the level 1 and the Stormcaller here because I thought it was a little bit more value than that level 2 pack, and I thought that the level 2s would probably just die and give experience to the Arclights, which is kind of important for my idea here. And yeah, you see me just purchase more arcs. One more here on the left to help out because I was expecting some sort of mirror there from my opponent. And he does add another Mustang and Sabertooth to the left, as well as a Crawler pack. Both of us don't really have money to shield here. Oh, actually, I did. So I probably should have done that. Instead, what I decide to go for here, I think, is just the attack from the tower, probably. Oh, just a missile in the back. There was an active, I think. There was a Wasp Swarm available. It is, by the way, kind of important to get the attack on the Arclights, because if your opponent gets the defense enhancement, you can no longer one-shot Mustang, and obviously that is going to cut into your, well, ability to quickly get rid of the enemy forces. I have 1 steel ball left alive here that does a fantastic job of getting debuff. The Arclights on the left, even though they do lose, manage to get rid of pretty much everything else. The Mustangs are dead, the Crawlers are dead, so they're catching good experience. And right side, that was just Arclights, but even the level 2 Arclights were already able to get rid of those Sabertooth. And if we manage to get a good debuff here, opponent does get my tower, but if I manage to get his second tower at a good timing, which by the looks of it should be possible, then I might just end up winning this. Yeah, the Arclight range here, absolutely the right call. And it gets me a good round, and I chip away at my opponent's hit points, now below 4k. Round 4, I get access to my Rhino, and here I see, well, super heavy armor. It's a bit of an expensive item, and usually I would skip it, but here I have a lot of good targets for it. 1, I have this level 2 Rhino, which frankly, my opponent is not going to have an easy time dealing with, even with Sabertooth. Like, this is almost level 2 Fortress amount of hit points. Even though Sabertooth does have double shot and stuff, it's not going to kill this on turn 4. And after I've used it, I can transition the item onto steel balls, which also is a great recipient for that item. And so I pick it up here, I add another Arclight, I add some more chaff. I importantly do get those levels. I sell the steel ball that was on the left because it wasn't really doing anything, and as I said, not too happy with its positioning. And I get the mobile beacon to run into the tower. Opponent kind of expects something of the sort, does put the missile down, but yeah, I mean, you can slow this, but you're never killing it. Like, unless it was this Sabertooth on the right, which Sacco does get the absorption module for, this Rhino is unstoppable. Luckily, it gets a debuff there, which prevents the Sabertooth from killing it, and thanks to that, my Rhino prevails. And now, I am in the driver's seat, right? I've made some active plays, the Arclights are working out perfectly, and I've got a bit of room to maneuver. I can make the plays now. My opponent has to answer what I'm doing. This Rhino is very scary. And so what I'm going to do here is say, well, you probably need to answer that Rhino. So what if I just sell it? Rhinos have very, very specific counters that are extremely good into it. So yeah, my opponent here goes for the subsidized steel balls. I also do pick it up. As an answer into the Rhino. If I did not sell this Rhino, I would have definitely lost that unit. And it probably would have died to those steel balls that were added. Instead, I can now repurpose 1, the money, and 2, the item from selling the Rhino and try and get a better board for myself into whatever my opponent is trying to build. So we repurpose the super heavy armor. It goes onto our level 2 steel balls there. The plan for me is to go into steel ball Mustang here with ranged steel balls, because Sabertooth is not that fantastic into steel ball for the most part. Even if it can one-shot it, it still needs to fire 4 times to kill the whole pack. That takes a while. So yeah, I don't mind that matchup. That was kind of the idea. But I also needed Mustangs, and so first here I decided to grab a bunch of Mustangs, give them range. There was a spell, which I'm kind of trying to play around in this scenario. And yeah, see what I can do. Opponent went for triple steel ball and already clicking mechanical division there. But we're getting some really good tempo by the looks of it. Yeah, I mean, these steel balls are just such a nightmare to deal with. He got rid of one of them, but there's still two sitting on full health. And they managed to get the tower debuff. Left side is now winning 2 thanks to those level 2 Mustangs that have range, which really enables the unit. And meanwhile, I mean, look at this arc light. Level 3 just has the range, top on damage. Not just this round, but for the whole game so far. And that is a pretty massive turn, sending my opponent down to 2,000 hit points. Round number 6, Ion Blast, Incendiary Bomb, Smoke Bomb, all spells that are probably worth picking up. Efficient Giant Manufacturing, I could think about it. I can also transition this into like Fort Mustang, but honestly, I didn't really want to. I already picked up Subsidized Steel Balls, and I felt like I was in a good spot to try and close this out early. No need to try and get into those fortresses. And on top of things, I do need to respect the spells here. So I pick up Incendiary Bomb because I thought Ion Beam is 1, expensive, 2, I won't get it back in time because I want to try and close the game out within the next 2 to 3 rounds. And 3, Fire does about the same thing, right? It's much easier to land. So opponent goes for it as well, which I was expecting. It's also the reason why I put a bunch of shields down, because we have Missile Strike. He could fire very aggressively and try and burn my whole board. I don't really want that to happen, so I'm just going to play respectfully. Buy 2 more steel balls, which I do range. That was the initial plan. And yeah, my opponent here does not respect any of the spells available. Willing to trade, but I think here I'm going to be better off managing to get rid of 3 Mustang packs at the start. And that does diminish the DPS for my opponent significantly, allowing my Mustangs here to sit just outside the fire and probably get rid of that Sabertooth. Now, obviously, they will burn afterwards, but you can see here the Steel Balls are doing a fantastic job, even against the level 3 Sabertooth. And so that is another good round there, even though, like, there was still the remaining oil, fire was offered, like, arguably it's harder for me to deal with this because I can't shield on my opponent's side of the field. We managed to get ahead, and that is fantastic for me. Opponent now down to 1,300 hit points. And round 7, we get unit reinforcements yet again. Scorpion, first thing offered, and immediately it's like, yeah, okay. He's probably going to be picking that because I have got steel balls, and it's such a good pack. I mean, triple deployment of Scorpions, you can't really say no to it. And the other things don't make that much sense. Fire Badger, I guess, is fine, but when Scorpion is offered, are you really going to pick that? Probably not. Well, I do pick it, but I mainly pick it for tempo and money. I sell one of them. And so, knowing that my opponent here very likely goes for Scorpion, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to preemptively play into that. And instead of going into more steel balls, which would probably be bad for me, I'm just going to go into Hacker Mustang, because hackers are really good into steel balls with Mech Div, which I can take over, into Sabertooth, into Scorpion. I go for a little bit of a cheeky play there in the back line, trying to maybe like lock up one of the arcs, maybe kill some Mustangs or some crawlers, but it's just tempo. Maybe it should have gone elsewhere, but I mainly took this just for the money and the tempo play. And yeah, I go triple hacker here with range, triple blue hacker at that. And I am loaning for temp range, obviously, because I was trying to close things out. And because my opponent wasn't quite expecting hacker yet, there isn't too much chaff in front of his unit, so I do manage to get some good locks, at least on those steel balls. But yeah, you can see the fate that my steel balls would have met if I were to buy more of them. Right side kind of in a bad spot, but I managed to hack a Scorpion at the perfect time, and his tower is closest to it. So this enemy Scorpion, which was double teched, kills the tower, and then 9 seconds of debuff come my way, which allows me to hack more stuff and just barely win the round. It's not enough to kill though, which is kind of what I was aiming for. So You know, that round didn't look that good. I was somewhat struggling with shaft clear. The hackers were not necessarily locking onto the scorpions as fast as I would have liked. So things were starting to get a bit dodgy here, but we've got the hit points, and I think I still have a good comp. Opponent there decides to go for the portable shield. I decide to go for the Rhino assault. I thought there was a opener here to try and go for that tower. At least if my opponent didn't put any units back there, so that's why I go for that. Opponent goes for the portable shield, which is a fine item, but into Hacker it doesn't matter that much. Like, Hacker will just go straight to the hit points and ignore the shield, so it might end up giving me an even bigger scorpion. But obviously here, Sacco is going to try and make sure that I don't hack his units. So one, he uses shields, which is a fantastic counter to Hacker. Hackers, for those of you that don't know, deal about 1/3 of their damage when they have to deal damage and not hack things. So into like anti-interference module, into shields, they're very, very bad for the most part. And so this is a nice play. And then two, obviously chaff can be a problem. I buy a couple more hackers here, by the way, and I also decide to take barrier. It's gonna prevent some of my units from dying to spells, and it's just a good tech overall, kind of the same as with Fortress, but a more budget version that pairs well with Elite. I do take EMP as well on the Arc Lights. Arc Lights here still would have been good. That was an alternative plan. Sadly, the Rhino gets distracted, and even without that, my opponent kind of saw through my tricks, perhaps, or was trying to avoid the hacker and moves the steel balls back. So play didn't work out, but that's kind of how it is. But you can see that we are kind of struggling here. Luckily, the units are advancing in front of the shield, so we don't have to break all of them. And I am starting to now hack the more important units. If anything, it's also making sure that these scorpions might not shoot at the correct targets. We managed to hack a scorpion there on the left. Thanks to the EMP, I think it couldn't find the range. Thanks to that, we get a debuff as well. And with that, the hackers will manage to survive those shots from the scorpions during debuff. Or at least one of them. And that should be enough as we take over the final scorpion and just about manage to cross the finish line and get a win. Now, hit point wise, this game was relatively dominant on my behalf, but you could see that it was starting to turn a little bit there. I tried to go for that proactive play with the hackers, which does end up working, but it was looking a little bit dodgy, right? I was missing some kind of chaff clear there. Didn't have that many arc lights. The ones I had were very good and very high level, but we're kind of struggling. I didn't have the best of shield clearing or shield break, so that was a good move for my opponent and almost managed to, well, at least turn things around for that round. Maybe a Stormcaller edition would have been nice for me. But yeah, it shows you how you can kind of, if you know or you have a really good idea of what your opponent wants to do because of free units that you see being offered, because of the board state that you're playing with, then you can try and play around that, and sometimes it'll just result in you getting a good tempo lead, getting like 1,000 hit points of damage onto your opponent. And yeah, that was what happened here. We made good use of our Rhino, of the item that was offered. We sold it immediately afterwards to try and preempt the Rhino from instantly dying to those steel balls. And then after that, when the second free units showed up, we made sure to, well, play around the scorpions, not invest more into steel balls, which would be a losing fight, and try and find a good counter to the play that was expected. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope it was informative. If you did like it, please leave a thumbs up. If you want to stay up to date with all my latest videos, please do consider subscribing. Check me out on Twitch if you want to see me play live. And with that being said, have a lovely rest of your day. Take care and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.